Welcome back to Bix Book Summary. I'm Bix, and this video is truly special because today we embark on a journey that's deeply personal, a journey to understand those hidden parts of ourselves, the moments where we feel stuck, anxious, or overwhelmed without even knowing why. We're diving into the powerful insights of the book It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolynn. Let me tell you up front, this isn't your ordinary self-help book. It's a gateway into a truth most of us never think to explore. Sometimes the emotional baggage we carry doesn't belong to us at all. I know this deeply because I've experienced it myself. When I was just 3 years old, I was separated from my parents and sent to live with my maternal grandparents to get a better education. It wasn't that my parents didn't love me. They did it to give me the best opportunities in life. Yet even though their intentions were loving, the separation left me with a wound I didn't even realize I had. That hidden wound silently influenced my life. As I grew older, navigating emotional challenges, relationship difficulties, and personal setbacks, I started feeling a deeper underlying pain. And through therapy, personal reflection, and books like this, I realized I wasn't just carrying my own emotional scars. I was carrying echoes of my family's past, generations of unspoken pain, grief, and fear. And that's exactly what Mark Wolynn talks about in this book. He takes us into the fascinating but often overlooked world of inherited trauma. The deep emotional wounds passed from one generation to the next, silently shaping our lives, behaviors, and even physical health. These invisible legacies can lead to depression, anxiety, panic attacks, or unexplained feelings of heaviness and disconnection. Imagine waking up every day feeling anxious or sad without a clear reason. You've tried therapy, meditation, self-help books, yet something inside still doesn't click. According to Wolynn, these unexplained feelings might not stem from your own personal experiences, but instead might originate from the unresolved trauma of your parents, grandparents, or even great-grandparents. Mark Wolynn didn't just write about this. He lived it. The book opens with his compelling personal story. One day, without warning, he began losing his eyesight. Doctors couldn't explain what was happening, and the situation grew terrifyingly serious. Desperate, he searched the world for answers, seeking help from spiritual teachers, gurus, and healers, hoping someone could shed light on his condition. What he eventually discovered was extraordinary. His body wasn't just experiencing physical symptoms, it was carrying a deeper language, a language of fear passed down from generation to generation. Words like alone, helpless, and ruined resonated in his mind and body, yet these feelings were not his own. They belonged to his family's hidden past. This is what Wolynn calls the core language of fear, deeply held emotional messages inherited from our family. These are powerful, subconscious beliefs that unknowingly control our lives. They manifest in our thoughts, anxieties, depression, and even physical health. Most of all, they reveal themselves when we least expect it. For Wolynn, healing started when he made a courageous step. He reached out to his parents after years of distance and misunderstanding. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was deeply uncomfortable and painful. But through reconnecting with his parents, he finally faced the hidden wounds. And astonishingly, as he healed these emotional wounds, his eyesight gradually returned, something doctors thought impossible. This is the heart of It Didn't Start With You. It's not just a book, it's an invitation to explore your family's emotional history, the hidden stories your body remembers even when your mind has forgotten. It challenges you to ask yourself this powerful question. What if the emotional pain you're carrying didn't actually begin with you? In the segments ahead, we'll dive deeper into the fascinating science behind this phenomenon. Because this isn't just theory, it's backed by groundbreaking research in neuroscience, epigenetics, and real-life examples that will truly surprise you. So stick around and keep watching, because this journey of discovery has just begun. Together, let's uncover the hidden layers of our stories, find healing, and reclaim the freedom that comes with understanding the true source of our emotional pain. When we think of trauma, we often picture it as a single event, an accident, a loss, a breakup, an abuse, something painful we personally experience. But what if some of the pain we carry wasn't even ours to begin with? What if our wounds weren't rooted in a moment we lived, but instead in something that happened to our parents, grandparents, or even generations beyond? In this powerful part of It Didn't Start With You, Mark Wolynn gently introduces us to an idea that might initially sound mystical or spiritual, but is deeply grounded in scientific discovery. It's the notion that trauma can be passed from one generation to the next, not just through stories or behaviors, but biologically, in our cells. Now, here's where things get incredibly fascinating and incredibly real. There's a groundbreaking field of research called epigenetics, which studies how the experiences and environments of our ancestors impact the way our genes get expressed today. It doesn't mean our actual genes are changed. Instead, it's like certain genes get switched on or off. Imagine a dimmer switch controlling a light. Scientists have uncovered something extraordinary. Traumatic experiences actually leave behind chemical imprints on our DNA. And these imprints don't just fade away, they can be passed down to future generations. Let's simplify this a bit. Imagine your grandfather lived through the horrors of war. He witnessed violence, experienced starvation, lived in constant fear. He survived, but the trauma he endured was never spoken about or healed. This unresolved trauma altered the way his body responded to stress, the way his immune system functioned, the way he processed anxiety, even how he felt safe in the world. Then he had children. Those children inherited not just his genes, but also these chemical signals. Even if they grew up in a peaceful home, their bodies might still respond to life with heightened stress, anxiety, or fear without ever knowing why. And this gets passed on again and again. This is how trauma moves silently from one generation to the next, not just through what's said, but also through what isn't said, through silence itself. Mark Wolynn brings these ideas to life with powerful real-world examples. One story particularly touched me. A man named Jordan who suffered from lifelong panic attacks. Jordan tried everything: therapy, medication, meditation, but his fear wouldn't let go. Only when he delved deep into his family's past did the answers come. Jordan learned his grandfather had survived a horrific fire that tragically took several lives. Jordan had never been told this story. He didn't even know it existed. Yet, when he finally learned it, he felt a deep shift inside him. Suddenly, his fear had a name, an origin. It wasn't his. It had been passed down through generations like a sealed letter, hidden and unread, until now. This revelation touched something deeply personal inside me too. I thought about my own family's struggles, how the financial collapse during my teenage years affected me profoundly, even though my parents did everything they could to shield me from that pain. I reflected on my grandparents and the quiet sacrifices they made, the grief and anxiety they swallowed silently, carrying burdens in their hearts and bodies but never speaking them aloud. Suddenly, things started to click into place for me. Some of the anxieties I've carried, fear of abandonment, feelings of shame, deep-rooted scarcity, these emotions weren't solely mine. They were echoes of struggles endured by generations before me, encoded in our shared family story, stored deep within my own body, even though my mind had no conscious memory of them. That realization is exactly why this book is so powerful. It doesn't encourage blame or resentment. Instead, it gently guides us toward understanding and compassion. It asks us to become curious about our family's unspoken history, to see ourselves not as isolated, broken branches, but as integral parts of a tree that has endured many storms. And the beautiful part is, once we recognize this connection, we gain the power to change the narrative. Not just for ourselves, but for our children, grandchildren, and all who come after us. Next, we'll explore the core language of trauma, how hidden words hold the key to our pain. Are you ready to discover more about the hidden legacy inside you and begin healing it together? Let's keep going deeper. Sometimes, healing doesn't start with a major breakthrough or a dramatic shift. Instead, it often begins quietly, with just a few words. A sentence that slips out when we're at our lowest point. A whisper we hear when we're alone, a thought that repeats itself inside our head. Words like, I don't belong, I'll always be alone, something bad is going to happen, it's my fault. In It Didn't Start With You, Mark Wolynn calls this our core language. The hidden, emotional sentences we unconsciously use to describe our deepest pain. But here's the most surprising part. These words often don't originate from our own experiences. Instead, they echo from the lives of our parents, grandparents, and even generations before them. This chapter is the heart of the book, the point where it stops feeling like just a book and becomes more of a personal guide, almost like a treasure map back to ourselves. According to Wolynn, our core language isn't random. It's deeply rooted in feelings we carry, but often can't explain. It's the reflection of grief that was never spoken, of trauma that was hidden away, of fears passed quietly from one generation to the next. These words don't just live in our minds, they live in our bodies. They surface in our anxieties, our depressions, our panic attacks, and they speak loudest when we're overwhelmed or emotionally raw. That's when we blurt out these sentences, words we didn't even know we believed. For Mark Wolynn himself, the core sentence was, "I'll go blind." Strange, isn't it? But for him, this fear became literal when he actually began losing his vision as a young man. Doctors couldn't explain why. It wasn't physical. Yet the fear was very real, quietly influencing how he lived his life. The turning point came when Wolynn traced this strange fear back through his family's unspoken trauma. He discovered a hidden family story he'd never been told, one he was unknowingly carrying in his own body. This is why Wolynn guides readers so carefully through the process of uncovering their own core language. He teaches us to start listening to our complaints, our inner voices, our bodies, even our physical symptoms. Because all of these things aren't random. They're actually powerful clues, markers leading us to hidden wounds from our family's past. Here's where the book became deeply personal for me. I started paying attention to the thoughts that appeared during times of stress, conflict, or silence. Slowly, I realized some of these recurring words weren't from my adult life at all. They felt older, maybe from my childhood, maybe from my parents, maybe even my grandparents. I heard myself thinking things like, "I'll be left behind. It's up to me to fix everything." These weren't just random thoughts. They were powerful emotional truths that had shaped my entire sense of identity. And once I became aware of them, I began to question, where did this come from? Whose voice is this? Is it really mine? That gentle curiosity, free from judgment or blame, opened a new path toward healing. Because once you find your core language, you start to hear the deeper story beneath it. You uncover the emotional blueprint you inherited and now have the chance to rewrite. This process isn't about blaming your family. Instead, it's about understanding and compassion, recognizing the emotional DNA we've been given so we can stop passing unresolved pain forward. So what words do you carry that seem too heavy for your lifetime alone? What beliefs show up over and over again, even when life seems okay? Those words and beliefs are your core language speaking. And when you learn to listen gently, patiently, and compassionately, that's when real healing can begin. Next, we'll take an important step further and explore facing the family tree, healing the past by looking back with open eyes. Are you ready to continue uncovering the stories that shaped you? Let's go deeper together. So far, we've explored how trauma can silently pass from one generation to the next, shaping our thoughts, emotions, and health in ways that sometimes leave us feeling confused or stuck. But now comes the crucial question: what do we do about it? How do we break free from cycles we didn't even know we were in? How do we finally set down the pain we were never meant to carry? This is where It Didn't Start With You transitions from insight into action. Mark Wolynn beautifully guides us not just to understand, but to heal, transform, and reclaim our lives. Healing, Wolynn reminds us, doesn't come from forgetting or ignoring the past. It's about reclaiming your story, recognizing it fully, and learning to live with it rather than under its shadow. This journey isn't about erasing the pain overnight. It's about retraining our mind and body to feel safe again, building trust within ourselves step by intentional step. One of the most transformative tools Wolynn offers are what he calls healing sentences. These short, powerful statements aren't just positive affirmations. They're emotional anchors, carefully crafted to speak directly to the frightened, anxious, or hurt parts within us. By saying them aloud regularly with genuine emotion and intention, we begin to create new emotional blueprints, fresh pathways in our brain that lead us back to safety and peace. Here are a couple of powerful examples. Even though this fear doesn't belong to me, I acknowledge it, I see it, and I lovingly let it go. Or perhaps something like, I am not responsible for my family's pain. I have permission to be free and live my own life. These words may seem simple, but when you say them from the heart, speaking them gently and repeatedly into moments of quiet, they begin to rewire old patterns. Slowly but surely, your nervous system gets the message. We are safe now. Wolynn also highlights the importance of rituals and symbolic gestures, small, sacred acts that gently but profoundly acknowledge trauma, grief, or loss. These practices might include writing a letter to an ancestor whose pain you've unknowingly carried, and then burning or burying it as a symbolic act of release. Lighting a candle to honor someone whose loss went unspoken and unacknowledged. Placing a photograph or meaningful object nearby, serving as a gentle reminder of someone you never got to properly grieve or farewell. When our pain is acknowledged, even quietly, symbolically, it begins to soften, and its hold on us starts to loosen. Personally, this section of the book was like receiving a gentle, loving invitation to not only understand my past, but to begin actively dialoguing with it. I began to recognize when my responses were born out of old, unhelpful patterns, and instead of criticizing myself, I gently interrupted them. I learned to thank younger versions of myself who coped the best way they knew how, and then lovingly chose a different path forward. I started whispering healing sentences to myself on long walks, quietly in the mirror, or softly as I fell asleep. Slowly, something inside me began to change. The fear didn't vanish overnight, but for the first time it wasn't the loudest voice in the room anymore. That's what true healing looks like. It's reclaiming your own voice from the chorus of inherited fears. It's gently speaking kindness and love to the parts of you shaped by past pain. It's having the courage to finally say, I understand why you hurt, but now it's time for us to live differently. Breaking generational cycles doesn't require your family to change. It simply asks that you choose differently. Choose more compassion, more understanding, more freedom, and more self-love. By choosing to heal, you free not only yourself, but every generation that follows. So let's close this chapter together with a message worth carrying forward. Your story is not just yours. It belongs to generations behind and ahead of you. But your healing can start here, today, with you. You have the power to rewrite not just your life, but the narrative of your entire family line, transforming pain into wisdom, fear into freedom, and inheritance into empowerment. Your journey of healing matters, and you are already on your way. We've reached the end of It Didn't Start With You, but in many ways, this isn't an ending. It's the start of something deeper, something profoundly meaningful, your journey back home to yourself. Throughout this exploration, we've uncovered a powerful truth that is both challenging and incredibly freeing. Sometimes the pain we carry in our hearts didn't begin with us. It flowed silently from the generations before. People who experienced heartbreak, war, exile, abandonment, poverty, or loss, often without ever having a chance to express or heal their wounds. But here's the beautiful part, and it's the heart of Mark Wolynn's message. It may not have started with you, but it can end with you. That's the invitation he leaves us with, not as a heavy burden, but as a sacred opportunity. An invitation to become the one who gently breaks the cycle, to be the one who chooses understanding and compassion instead of shame and blame. The one who clearly sees the story of the past and yet courageously chooses to write a new chapter for the future. When I reflect on my own life, the early childhood separation from my parents, the financial struggles that reshaped my family during my teenage years, the silent fears, the emotional turbulence in relationships, and the quiet, powerful work of healing, I realize this book gave me something deeply precious that I didn't even know I needed. Permission. Permission to ask the hard questions. Permission to feel the things that were never expressed. Permission to forgive the wounds that couldn't be fixed. And most importantly, permission to stop blaming myself for pain I was never meant to carry. If you're watching this and feeling a wave of emotion right now, you're not alone. Perhaps you recognize your own family patterns in these stories. Maybe you've whispered those same core sentences to yourself late at night. Perhaps you've struggled to heal because you couldn't find the root. Let me reassure you, if you're here, doing the work, you are already healing. If you've started listening to your body, noticing patterns and gently asking why without judgment, you are already breaking old cycles. Please know this deeply. You are not broken. You are the bridge. You are the person who chose to look back on your family story with compassion, and decided right here and now that the past would no longer dictate the future. You embody the healing that your ancestors never had the chance to feel, and you will become the freedom and hope your future generations will inherit. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for walking through this profoundly moving and deeply personal book with me. I'm Bix, and this is Bix Book Summary, where we don't just summarize books, we gently break open pathways to healing together. If this video touched you, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It truly helps to support this channel. And if you'd like to dive even deeper, please check out the link in the description below to grab your own copy of It Didn't Start With You. Your support means the world to me. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. What's one family pattern or cycle that you're ready to lovingly let go of? Let's open up that conversation, because true healing is never meant to happen alone. Until we meet again, be gentle with your story. Be patient with your healing process. And always remember, you are not defined by what hurt you. You are defined by the courage and love it takes to heal.